This is Paul Noble from eattoperform.com. I am sitting here with April Blackford. April, if you want to say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
So, we are basically going to have a pretty big class. We already have something like 25 people signed in right now, and usually it gets much bigger 5 to 10 minutes in. And so, if we're going to have a big class like this, I really need everybody's questions, so don't be shy. Anything interesting happening in the forums?
Just basically everybody kind of getting, excited about the continual challenges and stuff, which I think is great. Everybody's excited over the Facebook group, of course.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's been fun about the Facebook group is just like something like today where well, I found out about the shredded chicken. Are you familiar with this whole shredded chicken thing?
Yes.
In the slow cooker?
Yes.
Why'd you hold out on me?
I thought you knew. I thought everybody knew about that.
No, I mean I posted that on Instagram and people like freaked out, So I'm gonna make an article on it because it's pretty popular. But yeah,
What, are you going to ask me how I did on my Spartan race?
Oh yeah, how did you do in your Spartan race?
Well, other than the farmer's tan,
did you do like most people do and just like walk the whole time?
No, I ran, and I must say that the running was torturous, but I was a beast on all of the obstacles, all the strength, like the Atlas stone, all the stuff I was a beast on. I ended up placing, I think it was like 210 out of a couple thousand in my age group. So I think that's pretty badass considering that I did zero cardio for 2 years and I just basically, was stronger on the strength and the obstacle portions other than the running. Obviously I wasn't as fast in the running, but I held steady. So
I do cardio, just so you guys know. So you're not if you do cardio, you're not alone. So I always feel like I need to say that. Like the cardio people think that we're like against them or something. I'm like, what the hell? I just got done running 15 minutes ago.
No, I have been focusing strictly on building and getting stronger. So that's why I haven't done cardio. But Tom wants to do the beast, the next one, because you got the medal and the one pie piece, and you have to complete the beast and the super to get the trifecta. But right. The beast is 12 miles, and I think the one that I did had 25 obstacles, and then I think the other one has 35. So I informed him I think I would definitely probably need to run a little bit before the next one. So
well, I always tell people, because I've done the Tough Mudder twice, because everybody runs, right? And you do have to run a little bit for sure. But like my sister or my cousin, no, my niece, there you go. She was watching me do it one year. She's like, oh, I'm totally going to do it next year. I really got to start running. I'm like, you got to get stronger. That's the big thing because, I see all these people and they're like runners, but they can't get through the obstacles. The obstacles are what makes that fun,
I totally agree.
But yeah, I'm done with the Tough Mudder stuff. I've seen too much bad stuff. I just can't unsee. So, it's like, okay, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I didn't get hurt, but I'm moving on. But there's a lot of people that are really into it, and I support them. I mean, I think it's better than sitting on the couch and doing nothing. But it can get scary. So Greg Malden is saying, I got started on the forum today and afraid I'm not entering info into Tapatalk correctly. I got to be honest with you, Greg. I have no idea what you're talking about. April, do you have any idea what he's talking about?
No, I don't use it. If he's trying to search the forum, if he's trying to search and find the forum, then if he searches just Eat to Perform, then he should be able to find it.
Yeah. I've never... I mean, this sounds horrible. I probably should at some point, but I've never. I did sign in to Tapatalk one time, but I don't have it on my iPhone, and I've had my iPhone for a while. So, let's see. Saying I entered under the help with TDE macros. Okay, well, someone will help you. It's just it just takes time. Posted as info. Okay, all right. Well, they'll get back to you with that information. And actually, April and I were talking a little bit about the document that a lot of you guys end up getting, which is really great information and super helpful. So I think that'll give you some ideas on how to get started. So he's saying, thank you, really excited. Okay, cool. So Andy's saying, you posted a great article on creatine this week. I started following the 5 grams for 50 pounds of body weight guidelines you recommended. I noticed my weight has gone up 2 to 3 pounds. I assume this is normal due to more water in the muscles. That is probably correct. I don't typically see that kind of weight or water buildup. And typically it's because of what I do. Can you give me an example of the type of exercise you're doing with it? Because maybe that would be helpful. I think it does absorb a lot better when you're weight training. So if you're running, maybe you might see a little fluid buildup or something. Maybe it's not, causing some water outside of the cell, something like that. Any thoughts on that, April? Do you hear any of this type of stuff?
I think some people are sensitive to it. I do see and hear of some people retaining water when they first start creatine. If he's following the 5 grams per 50 pounds, depending upon how big he is, he may actually just be loading too much, to be honest.
Yeah, in the article, I actually say that. But the problem is that most people, instead of kind of doing it cautiously, they go, well, it's no big deal. And I'm sure it's probably no big deal for Andy as well. He's saying mainly CrossFit, only lifting. Tina's saying the webinar froze up. Has the webinar frozen up for everybody else, or is it just Tina? But I would say on everybody's saying it's just fine, Tina, so it might just be you. So I would say on my CrossFit days, I do not load as much creatine as I would on the days that I'm Olympic lifting. And part of the reason why is because I found, and none of the athletes that I work with found, that on days that we CrossFit, we could cramp a little bit. So I might, well, first of all, I might look at playing with the dosing a little bit. The other thing that I would look at is, now, one of the things I think I mentioned, because I was using, excuse me, but I was using concrete at the time. And it's basically the equivalent of 5 grams, but it also loads really well. I've been using monohydrate recently because I ran out of the other. And I haven't really noticed any water retention. I just think that, your body does take a while to adjust to it. And so you probably be smart to just load it slowly. The other thing that I would say is there is some marginal benefit to doing it post-workout. So if you're starting to see some build-up and you're doing it first, then do it post-workout. And then if that's still happening, then go ahead and just lower the dose a little bit. But you just play with it a little bit. So I hope that's helpful. If it's not helpful, so what about on rest days? On rest days, I do not use creatine. Just no need, really. I know some people do. Do you?
Yeah, I do. I take it every day just to ensure, because I generally only take 5 grams a day, but I continue to take it every day to ensure that my muscles stay saturated versus dosing higher or lower, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do the opposite. I do higher amounts. I actually mentioned this in the social group, which, by the way, if you're not in the social group, you should be in the social group because it's awesome. But I mentioned that in the social group that the owner of Vitargo showed me a bunch of studies at one point of how Vitargo combined with creatine was super helpful in terms of loading. So that might actually be a little of the secret there too, Andy. Typically, I load the creatine. I pretty much will only have creatine when I'm having carbohydrates. So that might be something that you would want to take a look at if you aren't doing that currently. But certainly Vitargo, rice, it doesn't necessarily need to be Vitargo, just some sort of carbohydrate. Or even if you're having carbohydrate with a meal. So he's saying, yeah, okay, that works. But yeah, like you're saying, you have it every day. So let's say that you have, 35 grams a week, right? I'm trying to think of how many of that I take. There might be, I think monohydrate. I don't know what the capsules I'm taking actually right now are, but I take 3 of them. And 3 or 4. Gosh, I'm really drawing a blank here. But I take them before, I take them with Vitargo. And so if I'm working out weight training 3 days a week, what's that? 15, 45, it's only 10 more than you and I'm a man, So that's something to think about. But yeah, I think overall it probably averages out, like you were saying. Or kind of like you were saying. Am I interpreting what you're saying wrong?
No, you're correct.
Okay. Andrea's saying she just signed up today. Should I read the books first or try to jump in and figure out what is going on? Great question, especially for anybody new. Jump right in. Go right to the forums and do exactly what Greg did. Go to the TDEE, our Total Daily Energy Expenditure, which is basically our Start Here section, and ask a coach for help, and they will get you help. And so there you go. Any thoughts on that, April?
Yeah, that's the best place. A lot of people, you can kind of go ahead and get you started, and we can kind of simplify things. And then you can read obviously read the books as you go along to get the finer details of the science behind everything.
Yeah, what I think is really awesome about, the books is it's almost like a manual that you would use to kind of optimize whatever your current situation is, right? And so you go to the Total Daily Energy Expenditure and you get your numbers and you start working on that, and then you'll go through the book, and like most books similar to the ones that we put out, you might not start from page 1 and go to page 200, right? You might go, well, okay, I'm really interested in adrenal fatigue, so I'm going to read the articles on adrenal fatigue, or I'm really interested in performance-focused fat loss, and so I'm going to really focus on that chapter. So that's what I would say to anyone new is, go to the forums first and then use the books because it's a lot of materials, right? I mean, it's basically 4 books. And so just use the materials as a way to kind of play around with that a little bit. So Steve's saying, first off, I won my bet, so thank you. Secondly, can you talk about the food giveaway for the upcoming challenge? There is no food giveaway for the upcoming challenge. There is a food giveaway currently. And so we're giving away $4,000 worth of food this month. And so basically, if you're signed up for winning the prizes, I don't know, Steve, if you're in the social group or not, but I always see the links to the social group and people congratulating each other and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I mean, the upcoming challenge, I'll just go ahead and kind of let a little secret out of the bag. They did talk to me about wanting to do like a paleo challenge, which is sort of funny because I'm not anti-paleo by any stretch of the imagination. I eat mostly whole foods, but I don't like the idea of a naughty and nice list of food. But if you view paleo as a mostly do list. That's why I don't have any problem with paleo power meals, right? Because I think their food is really good. And I think Michael is a really good cook. And so when I go to events, I go to paleo power meals. And so it seemed like a natural type of extension. Um, I am talking to those guys about a lot of things. The only problem is they're a very small organization, and they seem to be very overwhelmed. And so they're kind of doing what they're doing. But I'm really trying to work with them on getting an eat to perform menu. Trying to get their macros updated into MyFitnessPal, and so I think we'll have some cool stuff coming from them, and I'm pretty excited about it because I think when you look at, you know, whether it be coaching, meal planning, or, you know, food, if we can kind of have our, you know, hands in all of those things a little bit, I think that addresses things for a lot of people. And of course, you know, it's not going to be cheap. But I'm hoping that, you know, if people, you know, want to order food, that they would consider paleo power meals, because I can tell you that the food is really good, you know, and they have really good portions. A lot of the paleo places that you get food from, the portions are really small, which is sort of unfortunate. I think part of the reason why is they stay away from starches. And those guys at Paleo Power Meals, you know, they do a lot of stuff with potatoes. If we were to do some stuff with Eat to Perform, that's one of the things we talked about. You know, we were talking about, you know, risotto and things like that you know, are sort of unnecessary to be off the list. So, any thoughts on food, Paleo Power Meal? Are you
Yeah,
getting
I think it'll be a great idea, and you know, at least incorporating, you know, white rice. The risotto would probably technically not be defined as paleo because it's got dairy in it, but you know, they could broaden it with more starchier sources like paleo sources like plantains, rice, you know, things like that. Just other than the typical ones that I've seen online are basically meat and veggies. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they are with sweet potatoes, but what I'm saying to you is, if they were to do an Eat to Perform menu, it would be more open. So there would be no exclusions of dairy or, you know, rice or things of that nature. And so basically you would just have a menu of food, you know. Does this food work for me? Yes, I will order it. You know, that's pretty much how it would work. And so I think that would be fun. But we'll see how things play out with these guys. You know, I know it's a big priority for me. Let's see, what's today? Today's the 13th. So maybe I'll let you in on a little secret. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and say it. So it's a really super long shot, and it's not a big deal at all. But I'm auditioning for Shark Tank in about a week and a half. And part of the idea with Eat to Perform, and you know, we've started to get into staff meetings and stuff like this, but part of the idea is for Eat to Perform to become a much bigger brand, you know, where we, you know, have food stuff and we work with companies, and then we have an apparel line, and, you know, probably some level of supplements and things of that nature. And so those are all the things that I'll be talking about. But frankly, I don't think that there's ever been a concept that I've seen on a show like that, whether it be The Profit or Shark Tank, that's as good as Eat to Perform. Because Eat to Perform is not part of the fat loss industry. We're the opposite, right? I mean, everybody's just kind of selling you down, down, down. And I think that, you know, us selling the opposite and having a good team and framework in place allows us to make a compelling argument. So, you know, so that's the plan. Long shot, you know, a lot of things could happen, but, you know, I think it'd be kind of fun.
That's awesome. Are you going to be on TV?
Well, if I'm on TV, you're certainly going to be on TV, right?
No.
No, the way it goes is you apply and you got to get your financials together and things of that nature. Nothing too big. Um, and then, I mean, the one thing that Eat to Perform, has going for it is that we make a profit. None of these businesses seem to make a profit. Um, but yeah, no. And then you go in for a minute and then you pitch it to producers, and then the producers decide at that point whether or not, you're, you have a compelling idea. I think they probably look for the person as much as they do the idea. Is this person going to be entertaining on TV? And so April, you would have to be entertaining on TV. Just putting.
So was this Vicky's idea? I saw she posted something on Facebook about it, or was it your idea?
Yeah, no. So okay, so this was just kind of happened. And if you don't know, this is probably going to seem a little verbose, but I am like a serial entrepreneur. I've had many businesses since I was like 16 years old, and so my wife goes, Shark Tank is auditioning in Minneapolis on the 24th of April, and I said, they need a new shark. and she just leaned over, smiled, and then kissed me on the cheek. And then I, of course, realized that they were auditioning for the show. But anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so my wife let me know that they were auditioning in the Twin Cities, and I thought about it, and I thought to myself, well, I don't know of any idea better than our idea. So let's go give it a shot. So anyway, so I hope that answers your question, Steve. If you have any other questions, feel free. But, if you're a member, I mean, all you have to do is sign up and, log your foods, do whatever the requirements are for that given time. If you're new, you can sign up today. There are no real rules against it. A lot of people think that they're challenge specific. They're not challenge specific. We give away this stuff every single week. So keep that in mind. So Caitlin's saying, not a question, but April hit 500 days logged in a row today. That's impressive. Yay, April. Taylor told the story about how when you were at the Granite Games, you had to log, something, or you had to eat something. You were scared you were going to miss it.
I had to log my food so I didn't lose my streak. I think I had logged my breakfast so I didn't lose my streak. And there's some days that, if anybody looks at my food diary, if calories look a little low, you can guarantee that there's stuff that's not logged because I eat the food. I think I actually completed my diary for the day, and I think it's like at 2,500, that I actually put it in. But, I found it funny. Chris ratted Taylor out about Taylor making the comment about my food diary, and why Taylor is stalking my food diary is beyond me. If he wants some ideas about some real carbs, I can certainly give them to him.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just telling you guys, anytime you challenging somebody, I don't know that Taylor would be the one I would want to be challenging. So in terms of hands raised, anybody raising your hand, there's no real reason to raise your hand. Just ask your question. We'll put it in the queue and we'll get it answered. So Tina's saying, any recommendations for asthmatic people just starting out? Well, I think that, the big thing is to start slow and be respectful of your condition, but also, be mindful of the exercise that you're doing. I do know of a few people that CrossFit that are asthmatics, and, they will often have a inhaler with them. I don't know that I would CrossFit if I was an asthmatic, to be completely honest with you. I think that I would probably focus a little bit more on longer endurance and maybe some weight training specific. I think Elizabeth actually has a really great article coming out this week, and we've touched on this many times, you know, a lot of different ways, but I think Elizabeth has a way of saying this stuff very well. But you know, we used to all think, you know, she was, you know, started with CrossFit early on, you know, like the very first days of CrossFit, you know, she was involved. But you know, it's been, you know, 6 years for me, and you know, I used to think that I had to kill myself, you know, to work out, and I'd have to lay on the ground, you know, like I was dead, and you know, I've learned a much better approach, and now it's really just working out. And so, you know, I would say that whatever it is personally that is my situation, I would be very respectful of it and kind of, you know, a little concerned, you know, enough to be cautious. And I had a brother-in-law actually come with us. We tried to talk him not into not doing it. But he came in and tried CrossFit and almost died, you know, like doing a warm up, you know, and, you know, and unfortunately he didn't get the message from that. And then, you know, take up exercise, he kind of saw it as defeating. And my dog is being a little whiny right now. So I might have April come for take over for a few seconds. Let's see. Let's see. Edith is saying, "Hi, Paul and April. Saw the post on Vitargo Post and would like to get more info on how it's different, how it's used. Thanks." I will answer that in just a second. Are you familiar with?
I can actually answer it if you want to take care of your
Okay, go ahead.
if you want to take care of your little princess dog. Vitargo Post is essentially, it has the hydrolyzed protein and Vitargo mixed, and it is a 3-to-1 carb to protein ratio. So essentially you don't have to mix protein powder with it. You only drink exclusively that and nothing else. So
yeah, I would say yes and no. And this is my dog. This is Kira, and she is normally with my family on webinar night, but they were not able to bring her with tonight. And so she's going to be all sniffy right now. And then I'll probably put her down in a second. Here's the other thing about Vitargo Post is that, is it 3-to-1? I think it's 2-to-1. Maybe
no,
it's 3-to-1.
It's 3-to-1.
Okay. Because I find it kind of, it's not quite like Dreamsicle. You know, so like if you had 2 scoops of Vitargo and like vanilla or birthday cake, that would probably taste better than Post. Post is a little bland, and when we talked about it when they first made it, was the idea was that you would put stuff in it, you know, protein, bananas, you know, whatever. So basically what I do is I put 2 scoops of Vitargo into the Post, and you know, normally I think like a serving might be 2 scoops. I mean, I have to be honest with you, I don't use it all that much, but when I do, I typically use it with Vitargo. So, you know, I'm really focused more on the carbs at that moment. In fact, I tend to focus more on carbs around my workouts than I do protein. I don't, you know, personally, I actually, you know, it's really funny because you know, I've been logging my food a little bit lately with a few clients that I'm working with, and I'm kind of showing them like, here, you know, here's how I do it, you know, and pretty much, you know, like they're shocked that I don't eat as much protein, you know, as many of the other people do. You know, people put protein in their pancakes and all which I'm not against any of those things, but I personally don't do that. I tend to get, you know, the good majority of my protein from meat. And so there you go. I'm going to take off her little collar. So she's now ringing around downstairs, and for some reason she's sniffing my shirt. I must have made some kind of food or something. But yeah, I think if Vitargo Post, the rumor is that they have a dark chocolate version coming out. I'm assuming that will be really good. It's not orange. It's like tangerine flavor, and it's just really light. So like I said, if you put stuff in it, have you ever had it? You had it at the Granite Games.
I had it. Yeah, I didn't care for it. I think it tastes like a watered down dreamsicle. It tasted kind of watery. It wasn't as rich, and it's not very sweet, but
No.
I think it tastes like a watered down. I'm personally not a big fan of anything orange. Nothing orange for me. So if they did a chocolate, I would try it. I'm actually looking it up just to double check. I'm pretty sure that it's 3-1.
Okay, so now we're actually doing pretty good with the questions. So I've been playing with proteins, okay? And so for those of you who don't know about protein and the quality of protein and stuff like this, the best version of protein is a hydrolyzed whey protein or hydrolyzed casein. And hydrolyzed casein, there's like a brand called PeptoPro that's known to be one of the best. And then their hydrolyzed whey. And so my first version that I got birthday cake flavored, and then I got PeptoPro and hydrolyzed whey, and it was like almost like I can't even say that almost inedible. I mean, it's really inedible. It's just too bitter, too harsh. So then there's debitterized whey. So I got half PeptoPro, half debitterized whey. And so my next version is going to be just debitterized hydrolyzed whey to see how that goes. But so far, all my mixes have been pretty inedible, which kind of points to the reason why I brought it up was because what April is saying, like, oh, this is light. And then people go, well, Progenics tastes good. I'm just telling you, if your protein tastes really good and it's hydrolyzed whey, it's not super hydrolyzed. It's not super quality whey protein, just so you know. I mean, like, that's just the way that works. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Now, I might eat my words if, I can have 100% debitterized whey and then it also tastes great. But if you look on the packaging of Progenics, I mean, there's a lot of fructose. I mean, this is not a condemnation of Progenics, by the way. This is just the facts. The facts are, if you want something to taste good, you're going to have to flavor it, and usually you're going to have to flavor it with some type of sugar. And in the case of Progenics, they use some sweetener and some fructose to do that, which, once again, I do not have a problem with. But I'm saying that, when you look at, taking a scoop of hydrolyzed whey, that's the highest quality available, and then the scoop is like this big, right? And then you take Progenics, and the scoop is bigger, and you have to have two of them for one serving, then you go, right? It's not all protein there. A lot of it's flavoring, which, once again, if you're eating protein, sometimes that's what you have to do to be able to have good flavored protein. So keep those in mind. It's not a condemnation one way or the other. From my standpoint, though, I'd rather take, like, what I've been able to do is drink it with orange juice. And so with orange juice, it's a little bit better. The chocolate, basically I just do the chocolate in like 8 ounces and kind of just, head back and go, But like I said, I don't drink a lot of protein. So it doesn't tend to bother me all that much. So let's see. Heather saying, I'm coming to ETP from a background of calorie restriction. not like a lot of people, a little under a year, though I'm still carrying a lot of body fat. I built up my calories to somewhere around maintenance levels over the last few weeks. I'm wondering now whether it's better to look for fat loss with a daily consistent calorie deficit of around 500 calories, or by the wave method, where I would only cut on rest days. So Heather, can you answer me this question? How long have you been eating at maintenance?
She just said it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
She said a couple weeks.
Makes
She said a few weeks. She said a few weeks.
Few weeks, which I consider 2, 3.
Yeah. She said not long, about 3 weeks. Okay, here's what would happen if you were to cut right now. Basically, you started moving up to maintenance for a reason, right? Because what you were doing wasn't working. If you start cutting after 3 weeks, basically you're going to see the same exact results. Your body hasn't adjusted to the higher calories at this point. Now, being 30%, we could probably look at 2 months, which is only, 5 weeks from now. I would say you'd be best off at 3 months. But, I get it. It's mid-April. You're already probably thinking of summer and things of that nature. I mean, the reality is that if you're at 30%, okay, for you to get to, say, 20%, you're just not going to be able to do that for this summer. You might be able to get, 4 to 5% on a cut. We have the May 1st challenge. That's still a little short. I mean, you probably really don't want to start cutting till at least June 1st, and I would really argue, probably July 1st, to make sure that you've kind of got over some of the damage. And when I say damage, I just mean like it's slowing metabolism and things of that nature. There are people that would argue to you that if you were dieting for a year, that you need to allow for a year for your metabolism to recover. We have not seen that. What we've seen is that people are able to make gains. Now, we've had a number of instances where people start to cut and they come from a dieting background. They're like, okay, I did my 2 months, I'm kind of itching to go. And then they start off and they start getting lower calories and nothing happens, for a couple weeks. And then we're like, yeah, we told you, you should probably wait, It's always up to you. We'll support you no matter what. But I'm just telling you, you're wasting your time if you do that. Could you end up getting – see, the problem isn't that you might not be able to get a result, but you almost certainly wouldn't get a result at 500 calories lower, right? Even in the case of the wave method, your average is going to be less than 500 almost always. And so my fear for you would be, can you do me a favor and tell me what your maintenance calories are right now? See, that's the other thing too. A lot of the time, you guys are getting like total daily energy expenditure based on moderately active because the moderators are being cautious with you. And then you guys are viewing that as your total daily energy expenditure when you're actually very active. And so the whole idea is to go higher than that. But can you do me a favor and tell me what maintenance calories are for you right now? Maybe I told her what she didn't want to hear and she left. Well, I guess okay, here we go. No, she says she's here. So I'm interested to know what her total daily energy expenditure is. I can wait. But my dog probably can't wait. She's getting a little antsy. Says eating around 2,000. It's a bit under total daily energy expenditure recommendation because I was scared. Okay, so you're supposed to be at, let's say, 2,400. You're eating 2,000. Okay, you go down 500 calories to 1,500, and what's going to happen? Nothing. I mean, basically nothing. So then what are you going to do? You're going to go down to 1,250 to 1,000, right, to get the needle moving. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to be dealing with some muscle atrophy. Basically, you're dealing in a game of attrition. This is why you're stuck at 30% right now, is because you've not allowed your body to use it. See, this is the part that a lot of people don't understand, okay? The part you're in right now, you are burning fat, right? But not the way that you want to. You're supposed to be building lean mass. You've been doing it for 3 weeks and you're still under eating, right? So you're certainly not building mass in a way that you want to. And I get it that you're scared and you still want to work up to those numbers. But you need to work that TDE number up, because this is the best time for you. You're addressing major deficiencies in the way that you eat right now. And so what we see with people that are in your situation that are kind of stuck at that 30% realm, they'll often gain, a couple of percentage points just based on the amount of muscle that they gain, as long as their weight stays relatively similar, right? And so, you thinking you're not addressing fat loss is incorrect, okay? That's the magic of Eat to Perform. That's the thing that makes us different, is that you get fat loss both ways, right? Everybody else is trying to get you fat loss going less, 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 less. But what we do is we give you work capacity, we give you more muscle mass, we give you more muscle maintenance. And so if I was you, I would embrace this period. But I get that that might be hard to do. Maybe you have a bad relationship with food, maybe for a long time. If I were you, I would look in the mirror and I would make peace with that 30% lady, and, sort of focus on a longer term approach, because that's going to be the thing that allows you to see the best result. What people make a mistake with the wave method is that the wave method is beneficial because of the deficits, because they want to be in deficits, right? Everybody comes to us and they're like, well, we want fat loss. And so they assume that they need to do the things that they've always done. But what they've always done hasn't worked, and that's why they're here, right? And so what we try to walk them through is a reasonable approach. And of course, it makes sense to everybody, right? That they can't just like go down to zero, even though people have tried, and then they've harmed themselves along the way. Diseases like hypothyroidism and all these things that are related to negativity, from extreme dieting, obviously, adrenal issues, things of that nature. When you start hanging on to muscle mass, when you start improving in the gym, it's not just a self-esteem thing. I mean, obviously you see people's self-esteem kind of benefit from it, but it's not just a self-esteem thing. She's saying, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Helps to hear it out loud. I'll work on being patient. Just so you guys know, we have put out a lot of information on the wave method. We do have a book coming out on the wave method. I'm hoping that'll be out in June. And we'll have some opportunities that'll probably come about related to coaching as it relates to the wave method. But it's going to work just the way that I explained it to Heather. So like, if you're going to jump in the wave method group, which by the way is not going to be cheap, because it's going to be a pretty intensive type deal. But long story short is we have to have your attention for a long period of time, because like I was saying with Heather, somebody comes in, and they want to do the wave method, and they don't understand that the wave method is increasing work capacity and increasing calories, then we got a real problem. There's a lot of factors involved with the wave method. I mean, a lot of people want to have focused fat loss. And the other thing too, is that, April's been able to get a lot of people a lot of results, by just getting them to eat normal, and so, not trying that approach first, I think is a big mistake, and what I think happens for a lot of people is once they get out of that bad relationship that they have with food and their fat layer and their mirror and all that other stuff, it allows them to kind of go, you know what? I'll deal with fat at some point, but you know what? For this summer, I'm just going to enjoy myself. I'm going to work out. I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to train for the Tough Mudder. I'm going to train for a triathlon. I'm going to train for the Granite Games, or, something of that, something that allows you to feel better. I mean, think about all that less stuff. I mean, you can do it in a healthy way, but the good majority of the time, you're not going to feel great about it all the time, right? I mean, cutting's not fun. Not having success with cutting is not fun. Scale is up. That's not fun. You're training for something. You're eating what you normally do. I got a Fitbit. My daughter wanted a Fitbit. I said, hey, there's no reason why you shouldn't have one. And so I got her one. And I mean, within like 2 weeks, her habits have changed completely. I mean, she just became more aware of this stuff. But when people look at this Fitbit, right, they look at the calories and they go, I burned 3,000 calories, but I only ate 1,500 calories. How come I'm not, losing, 2 pounds in 3 days? Well, because your body's adjusted to the 1,500 calories that you're giving it. It's saying 3,000 calories because that's how many calories you're supposed to be eating on that day. It's that simple. It's not that hard. I mean, today was a control day for me, right? I can tell you my calories right now. Let's see. 1908. Yesterday was a workout day. I mean, it's 1908. It's 8 o'clock, so I've got 4 hours left. I'll probably end up at like 2,300. Yesterday, I was over 3,000. It was a workout day, It's a major difference, And so you start to see that all this under eating, you're basically just kind of like swimming in concrete, And, if you can use that top end real well, it'll be super helpful. I mean, but I get it. You got to be cautious. And you got to work towards that higher number. But, I mean, what's your height and weight, Heather? Is that, because I'd be interested to know that. Because I hate to say that somebody shouldn't be at 2,000 calories if she's like, 4'11", She said, nope, 5'7". Okay. So she's got a muscle issue.
Absolutely. And at 5'7", I can tell you without even running the calculator, because I have worked with so many people,
yes.
at moderately active, she needs to be no less than 2,400 calories. I'd say 23 at least with moderately active, because the taller you are, the more calories you need. So,
yeah. Like as an example, okay, I'm just going to do the math here real quick. Oh shoot, I can't do the math here real quick. Can you do me a favor? Multiply 0.7 times 148 and tell me what that is. It's going to be like 105.
103.
Yeah. So basically, you're at 103 lean mass. Your body's going to hold on to fat unless you get to 110, 115. Okay. Now, it's horseshoes, not hand grenades. You might be able, you know, if you get to 110, you'd be fine. But what that points to with 103 for a 5'7" woman points to is that you are massively under muscled. And so focusing on fat loss is a gigantic mistake. And it just points to a basic misunderstanding that is really perpetuated. You know, I wrote an article about this, you know, that the big epidemic that we have is not an obesity epidemic. It's that we don't have enough muscle. And you would be a great example of that. You know, we're always focused on, you know, that body fat percentage. It's not the fat that's an issue for you. Really, it's the muscle. And my guess is if you can get that your protein right, really your calories right? Your calories are low, and so your body's holding on to as much fat as it can hold on to right now, and it's not going to release fat. I mean, it'll release fat if you go super low, you know, but you'll cause all kinds of issues.
I'd like to add, because you haven't really let me touch on this topic. I'd like to add with her height and weight, which is a very healthy height to weight range, like what you said, her problem is muscle. But let's just say, even if she was at a sustainable caloric standpoint, she had been there for a while, you know, with 30% body fat, if she lost, strictly focused on losing fat and maintaining her muscle mass, she would eventually just be a skinnier version of herself. You know, and 9 out of 10 times, she probably would not look like what she wanted to look like.
Oh God, no. No, I mean, like shoot, let's see. Well, I don't know. The article is secret to the wave method is not what you think. You might have to actually click load more on each perform, but it has 2 pictures of me. And in both pictures, the first picture, I was just like you, okay? For a man is basically 10 percentage points less than a female, right? Because we don't have chest and hips the way that you guys have. And but the long story short is I got stuck at 20%. Couldn't do anything about it, right? And I was having a mostly cardio approach. I was eating to perform at that time, though. I mean, I was eating a good amount of food. I was eating pretty smart. I wasn't probably as smart with protein and things of that nature that I got later on. But the part that was missing was some level of resistance training. And so when I matched that food intake, you got a little bit smarter about my protein, and then also started doing some resistance training. What you see in the difference in those 2 pictures is massive. You know, in one picture, I look sick. You know, I got so small. That's what would happen to you. Like, that's what April is describing. You would just get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you would not look like a healthy version of smaller. What I think would probably end up happening is if you could get your lean mass from 103 to 115, which is probably a lot easier than you think, no matter what your age is, it would benefit you greatly. But it's this focus on fat loss that's probably hindering you a little bit. Let's see. So Francesca's saying, "Yay, that's awesome! Such great nudes." I don't know what she was talking about, but I think one of the things I mentioned earlier. I can't remember her saying it. So Amy Jones is saying, "I'm new as of today, not quite sure what to expect so far. I think I'm in over my head. I doubt that. I need to lose weight. I don't know that you do. I want to weight train and eat better, but I'm not competing. Not sure what to eat or how to exercise. Went back to my fitness pal. Log food. I'm running and doing T25. Do I need to do something else? I just feel overwhelmed. Any thoughts?" Well, first of all, you shouldn't feel overwhelmed on day one. Day one, just enjoy it and have a good time, right? But I think the thing that makes people feel overwhelmed is, one, they get 4 books, and 2, they get overwhelmed at the thought that they need to know all of this tomorrow. You don't. That's why we have coaches. And so if you can get in the forums and ask the coaches for help, that will help you not feel overwhelmed. That's why we have coaches. But let's see. In terms of you need to lose weight, why don't you go ahead and hit me with what your stats are, and I won't make them public if that's not something that you want to happen. I don't know. Maybe people can see it. I don't know what we're doing here. Let's see. Okay. So I have to say to you, I mean, there's so many people in your situation that are very healthy. Do you have any idea what your body fat percentage is? So once again, what we sort of run into is this thought process of, let's see, I'm just trying to do the calculation in my head. Okay, so basically you have about 110 pounds of lean mass, okay? Now, I'm not saying that that is good, bad, or indifferent. I would say, yes, you probably do have some fat to lose, but I would say you probably would benefit from addressing some deficiencies. It sounds like what you're doing is mostly cardio-based. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's a mistake for you. I'm not saying you shouldn't do any cardio, because I think that everyone should do a little cardio, unlike April. But April does some, the whole lift weights faster thing, right? That's a little bit of what you
200 out of 2,000. That's like awesome. Like,
no, you should be really happy about it, especially since you don't do any cardio, but what I think is what's going to happen to you, Amy. Okay, let's go down the path that you would normally go down, right? So you do what you're doing, okay, and then you do cardio, and then you would normally eat less, right? What's going to happen? You're just going to become a smaller version of that same person. Maybe you would lose a little bit of body fat. So let's say if I told you you could lose 4% body fat over the next year, doing a bad approach, would you want to do it? She's saying yes, 1,200 calories, then I binge eat. My thought process is, if I told you that you could go from the body fat percentage that you're at right now to 4 percentage points less, you'd go, no, that sucks. I would not want to do that. And you would be right to not want that. And so what I think needs to happen is have a more balanced approach. What I'd like you to see you do, even, it doesn't have to be squats or deadlifts. I mean, I'm definitely in favor of that. And I'm really in favor of it for someone like you, because you would be the type of person that would benefit from it the most. Because typically, it's going to get real frustrating, especially if you're, at a CrossFit gym and you're an athlete with a little bit more fat to lose, right? And you're seeing all these, people running around you. Usually athletes in your situation are fairly strong. And so not using that one tool, that would be like having, like the best hammer in your toolbox, and then just constantly using your fist, trying to pound the nail into the wall, right? That's what you've been doing, and so if you could incorporate some kind of resistance training, even if it was just air squats, pull-ups, body weight type stuff that could help you out, that would be a good place to start. That would be better than, what you would be doing right now. The other thing too that ends up happening is that people get hurt. So like you eat a small amount of food, and then you kind of do the cardio thing, your joints start to wear down, all this other type of stuff. So the other thing that I would consider if I were you is some level of just hiking, long walks, things of that nature. After this webinar, I'm probably going for a long walk. So this is something that I practice. I don't just preach. And I just think that it's really important on a lot of levels. You know, I've been sitting down in front of the computer most of the day. It's nice to get outside and just breathe fresh air. And I think that if you look at your situation, same thing I told the person earlier, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Tina. I can't remember who it was. But you got to get in front of the mirror and you got to be happy with that person right now, because if you don't get happy with that person right now, you're going to go back to the 1,200 calories thing and you're going to recycle that throughout your life. And ultimately, you're going to give up because it's just not sustainable over time. She's saying, so start weight training. I'm not saying you should start weight training tomorrow, but you could do air squats tonight. You know, you could do, you know, an air squat program. I mean, I don't know how fit you are right now, but you could do 100 air squats tonight. You know, you could do sit-ups tonight. You know, but yeah, I think that if I was in your situation and I had some fat to lose and I had the ability to work with our coaches, every single one of them are going to tell you squatting and deadlifting are going to be good for you. So if you could find someone to squat and deadlift with you, that'd be a good thing. Now, am I saying you should avoid all cardio? No, I think you should have, you know, some level of cardio at least twice a week. But the idea of wearing yourself into the ground 6 days a week, no, I'm not a fan of that, because, you know, at 110 pounds of lean mass, you still do need to build muscle. And so getting your calories up to an adequate point, as a new trainee too, your body's going to adjust to the stimulus of weight training really easily. If you look at the picture that I was talking about earlier of, you know, me being really kind of gaunt, you know, to muscly in 6 months, that was basically me eating a good amount and putting weight training. If you don't eat enough, you won't see kind of the results that you need. You don't need to overeat, but you're going to want to have an adequate amount of food. So I hope that helps. And if it hasn't, jump in the forums, because there's a lot of ladies that have been able to go through your situation. We are running a little late, and we do have a few questions that still aren't unanswered, so I'm going to try and flip through those. Janice is saying, not a question, more of a comment in regards to your Shark Tank endeavor. The opportunity for clients and organizations to really benefit and utilize the type of Eat Before Meet This program would be business and organization with a comprehensive wellness program and willing to pay on their employees' behalf for them to utilize the service. I work in public health, and we love these kinds of programs that facilitate behavior change by making it easy, understandable, affordable, feasible to apply in their lives. Anyway, just a rant, public health professionals dream. No, that's something that's important for us. Right now, we sort of have our sweet spot because, you know, there's enough active people that lift weights and you know, want to do kind of, you know, hard exercise that we really haven't had to go after like the casual exercises. But, you know, Eat Form works just as well for those folks. And we've seen that happen over and over again. And what we see more than anything is them just kind of changing their attitude and their, you know, behavior, like you're saying, overall, that allows them to have a little bit more of a patient approach. And then they kind of wonder, like, why was I into this fat loss thing for so damn long, especially when I was seeing no results. She did have one question. Currently take BCAAs before strength workout and after strength. What is your opinion surrounding BCAAs and time and use them? I don't see BCAAs as a problem, but I don't see them as a big solution either. Basically, BCAAs have been recommended mostly because people are trying to avoid calories and they're trying to maintain their muscle in that process. So if you're eating an adequate amount of calories, you'd be much better off with something like whey protein, because whey protein is a complete protein. That said, if you want to throw some BCAAs in your whey protein, it won't hurt. You know, it would only help. I don't use BCAAs. I used to be into fasting, And when I was fasting, I would use BCAAs. But once again, it sort of points to the fact that BCAAs is really a calorie issue and not so much benefiting muscle and things of that nature. I've just not seen it be a negative when you're having an adequate amount of food, but I've not seen it be overwhelmingly positive in a deficit, right? So that says to me that if it works with your program, go for it. But, you know, I would rather see you eat, you know, more complete proteins like whey protein or meats or something like that. Any thoughts on that, April?
Anytime anyone inquires to me about it, I agree with what you said. You know, if you're eating before you train, I don't think you need them. For the early morning trainees, people who train very early in the morning, sometimes they'll take them and sip on them beforehand. I think it's fine. Technically, I don't think they need it, you know, kind of as an insurance policy, you know, just in case type thing. You know, and I generally tell people, you know, you generally don't need it. If you have it, use it. I wouldn't buy it again, you know, but you know, it's totally up to you and ultimately, you know, what you feel comfortable doing.
Right. Okay, so Bell Raponi is saying, is hitting your macros and calories a bigger priority than nutrient timing, or both are equally as important? They are not both equally as important. The most important thing is hitting an appropriate amount of calories for what you do. The timing is actually, if I were to put it on a list, I would say that amounts are important, quality is important, variety is important, and then timing is fourth. And I got that from Mike T. Nelson, who's pretty smart. And so that's what I would suggest to you. Sorry about my dog barking. Normally she's not here. For example, should you eat missing fat before bed if you haven't reached your macros, or just have fast absorbing carbs and start over? Honestly, I'm not a huge make up your macros at any cost guy. I feel like if you're fine, then, you know, try and do better the next day, especially if you're new. I know you're not new, so I would try to be a little bit more prepared. It always sort of surprises me for people that have been doing Eat to Perform for a while, that they still have these issues. You know, like I said, you know, and I have to say I'm being a little secretive about this. I'll tell you guys I am tracking my food. I'm not going to tell you what my MyFitnessPal is, and the reason being is it's kind of part of a project that's coming up here soon, and so I want to keep that secret for a number of reasons. But what is really, you know, shocking to the 5 or 6 people that are looking at it right now is I hit my numbers every damn day. You know, whatever my numbers are, I nail them. You know, now I don't nail the exact macros for fats or carbs. Okay, that to me is sort of insignificant. Okay, I'm always going to try to hit my calories, but I want to be in a range related to proteins, fats, and carbs. Protein I always hit. You know, for me, basically, I will allow myself to go as low as 0.7, but in general, I'm over 0.8, which is, you know, about 140, and I usually end up being over that or way over that. If I'm low, I'm typically low on fats because I need more carbohydrates for energy levels as it relates to working out. And it sort of depends on whether or not I'm in a cutting period or whether or not I'm in a maintenance period. If I'm in a maintenance period, typically my fats are going to be a little higher. She's saying, as an aside, April rocks. Just saying, that is a common consensus. You still need to get your t-shirt because April said so. So Donna's asking, I'm brand new to this. I'm a busy mom of 5 and I've sat down to read the books a few times and find it complicated. I hear you on that. I'm an educated woman, just no time, and frankly want someone to just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Where to start? The forums. My husband and I are doing it together. We both need to lose about 20 to 25 pounds and have the equipment, but haven't done much exercise. Is this for us? I can't imagine that there would ever be a scenario where I would say this isn't for someone, okay? The science of total daily energy expenditure applies to you and every human being on the planet. So what we're talking about works for everyone, okay? It is a matter of you getting in with our coaches in the forums. You know, the amount of people that can figure it out from just the book, I would say as a percentage, maybe 20%. You know, I'd say 80 to 90% probably need the help. You know, they kind of got where they are, you know, using the knowledge base that they have, right? So if they had figured it out, they wouldn't be talking to us, you know? So I think that if you can get in the forums and kind of dig in there, that's going to be the biggest bang for your buck. We still got a bunch of people, so I'm going to, you know, I feel like I kind of addressed that. And if I didn't, then Donna can follow up. Garrett saying, hi, this first webinar. I have body fat test done in a water tank, and my lean mass is 213, body weight 301. Was told my RMR is 2670, 3200 on workout days. I was just wondering if that seems about right. I mean, I don't know. You know, that sounds pretty low. I mean, if your RMR is 2670, I mean, did our coaches tell you that, or did someone else tell you that? I'm curious because it seems like an enormous amount of food to intake in a day. It is not an enormous amount of food to intake in a day, especially for someone your size. I can tell you because I eat that amount of food every day. For the most part, I eat about 3,000 calories, and I am 5'8", and I'll tell you exactly how. But I'm 5'8", and I weigh 170 pounds. And basically, I make it a priority to eat that amount every single day. And so I plan to have foods like that. You know, I plan to have a certain amount of carbohydrates around my workout. I don't eat, you know, by accident. I don't show up at a drive-through, as an example. You know, I basically eat, you know, steaks. I eat potatoes. I eat rice. You know, I eat a certain amount of vegetables, but I don't eat an extreme amount of vegetables. I mean, too much fiber really makes it very difficult for me to get in the amount of calories that I need. And so one of the beneficial things, my daughter just showed up and my dog's running from her. She's trying to chase her down. He said, but what types are you eating to get the calorie load? I would say normally, you know, I do eat a fair amount of dark chocolate macadamia nuts. That's usually about 350 calories right there. You know, Vitargo, you know, which is a drinkable carb, that's usually around 280, depending on whether or not I use Vitargo Post or not. So, you know, it sort of depends. But, you know, when you're really lean, Garrett, your body needs to have the type of calories that I'm talking about to kind of maintain that leanness. And so what balance do you should be used for fat loss for your macros? Well, first of all, I would suggest that you get in with a coach because it's pretty obvious that you're not working with one of our coaches, and that will be helpful. I would seek out April, though, for your particular situation, because I think that you sound like you don't eat very much and you need to lose some fat. And so we need to kind of get those numbers sort of figured out. And I would not listen to the guy at the hydro tank because it sounds like the guy at the hydro tank doesn't know what he's talking about, especially if he's telling the guy your size to eat so little. And my guess is you probably do eat that little, and you're probably not getting the results that you want. And the reason why you're not is because you're not supposed to be eating that little and your body's sort of adjusted. So I would get in with a coach. You know, it's pretty involved. Certainly, if you want to next week, jump in early on. We can address your situation more in depth. But there you go. So Tracy's saying, I just started ETP diet today. ETP is not really a diet. It's kind of what you do once you're done with dieting and you're moving on to the rest of your life. Working with April, who's been wonderful. Yes, April is in fact wonderful. I've been eating 0 starchy carbs for about a year. So now we're adding carbs back in. I'm worried I'm going to balloon. Is that something I should expect? I think you will probably feel bloated and uncomfortable a little bit, to be completely honest with you. What April is going to tell you is that initially you should start off having your carbohydrates post-workout. That'll help with that a little bit. But essentially what you've done is you've made your body inflexible. And our manual on fat loss kind of goes over that, where we need to try and regain that flexibility, which is also referred to as your metabolism. And so we need to get your carbohydrate metabolism up. We need to get your fat metabolism working the way that it's supposed to work. And carbohydrates is a big part of that. And so it might take a little bit, you being the first day, I kind of made a joking meme. Did you see the meme I made about, I started eating for 20 minutes ago, am I skinny yet?
No, that's a good one.
No. So yeah.
The thing with Tracy, the thing with her is that she actually, I started her out very conservatively, but she's coming from a low starchy carb background, but she actually was eating a fair amount of fruit. And just switching over the conversion from fructose to glucose sources of carbs, I think is going to make a big difference. And I usually recommend when you're starting out, hands down, even if you're coming from a strict paleo diet, white rice is one of the easiest digesting carb sources that you can eat. It's going to keep the least amount of bloat. It's very easily digested, versus trying to eat a higher, 50 grams of carbs in sweet potatoes is a lot to some people, and 50 grams of carbs in white rice is essentially just 1 cup of cooked white rice, which is just a handful of rice. So,
and Garrett asked that question, and that's an example why I use a lot of rice, because you can eat rice, easily, and you get a good caloric load. So I hope that's helpful, Tracy. But also remember, early on, don't go crazy with the pre-workout carbs, but you do want to eventually start adding those in. But you'll see your best results post-workout in the beginning, adding in starches there, and then eventually, as you start to add in starches to the beginning of your workouts, what you're going to find is you work out better. You get a lot better result from your exercise, and that's what allows for that, lean mass to kind of maintain and build. A lot of people that have been eating at a deficit for a long period of time, basically they're kind of playing this game of attrition. And, for most of us, especially if any of you are around my age, which, I'm 46, you got to be pretty smart about keeping that muscle. That's the thing that allows you to live longer, so keep that in mind. Lori's asking the question, we get a lot. And can you please explain why someone should rest 3 to 4 days per week to lose fat? Thank you. Okay. So here's the simple answer to that question. You don't have to rest 3 to 4 days a week. Okay. In fact, I wouldn't even recommend that you rest 3 to 4 days a week. What I would recommend, though, is you determine what your real goals are, and so I would say to you, Lori, if you could give me, can you do me a favor and give me some stats, and then we can walk through what your real goals are. She actually asked this question 14 minutes ago, so.
I need to go. My son has to go to bed, and they just started back school over spring break, and his bedroom is in my office, and it's almost 9:30 my time.
Okay, no problem. Message me that other information.
I will.
She might not even be here, so.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right, bye-bye. So, Lori, I'm going to hang around for your last question. So I'll explain the answer to Lori's question, basically how we do it with the wave method, okay? The whole idea with the wave method is to keep your work capacity up as high as long as possible, okay? But the way that you define what you want from, this whole deal is you either want fat loss or you want to get better at exercise. Getting better at exercise is usually favorable for maintenance. It's going to be favorable for a lot of things. And building tissue. A lot of people are coming from an under-muscled background, but they don't even know that, right? Okay, so she actually did get back to me. This is awesome. I've got your exact information. Okay, so she's, can you give me your weight? That would be helpful. Height and weight, actually. And just so you know, there's not a lot of people even left in the class, so let's see, she might be, okay. Are you saying you're 5'7", or are you saying that you're 57 inches? Because that's a big difference. I think she's saying she's 5'7". Okay, there we go. Well, first of all, I mean, the first thing that I would like to say is that is a perfectly acceptable, weight for your height. Your body fat, while you would want to improve, you could certainly be healthy at that body fat percentage. Okay, let's multiply. Let's see. I'm just going to do it longhand, so it's going to take me a little bit here. Every poker player on the planet is disappointed in me right now. But I was never that great at the math part of poker. If you guys don't know, I used to be a professional poker player. Let's see. Okay, so looks like so it looks like your lean mass is pretty good. You've got about 120 pounds of lean mass. Basically, for you, if you want to multiply your weight times 0.65, it might be helpful just to check my math, but I think I have you at 121 pounds of lean mass. So what that means is that's a different scenario. If you could check my math, though, and let me know if that's what you come up with as well, that would be helpful. But what that tells me is that you don't have a muscle problem. You actually have a good amount of muscle. You could have more muscle. That's something that is sort of genetic. But what I would say to you is that you are probably much farther along in the ability to lose fat. Okay, so now let's start addressing how often do you work out and what do you do? Okay, still waiting. Lori, here's what I think I'm going to do, because we've already run over about, okay, CrossFit's 4 to 5 times a week, been doing ETP for a month, love the workout days, but hate rest days, famished all day. Oh no, you see, Jen just came in, asked a question. I'll try and answer your question really quickly, but this has already gone 30 minutes over what we normally need to go to. So I'll try and address your question, but it might end up being a forum question. Okay, Lori, long story short, if your goal is to get to the CrossFit games, I would go ahead and do CrossFit, 4 to 5 times a week. But the problem is that if your goals aren't to get to the CrossFit games, you're going to be better off focused on fat loss. Okay, so then you go, well, okay, why couldn't I eat at a deficit and CrossFit? Well, you certainly could, but the problem is that you're going to cause more problems than you're going to solve in that scenario. And so we're not saying that you wouldn't CrossFit or you wouldn't even exercise, right? So in the case like you were talking about resting 3 to 4 days, there's no reason, even on a rest day, that you couldn't go on a hike, for a 5-mile hike. You could do that. It's much less taxing on your body than something like CrossFit. You're going to see a much better result from that. You're going to see a better fat loss result. So if your goal is to get to the CrossFit games, then I would say keep CrossFitting as much as possible. But if your goal is fat loss, then what I would suggest to you is some level of exercise to accommodate that goal. And, throwing in a deficit. Now, the other thing that you could try is something like we try with the wave method. I have many athletes that have to CrossFit, every day of their life because they're trying to win the CrossFit games. And so the wave method was really designed to accommodate them, but also could accommodate you as well. But the problem that you'll run into is you don't have the work capacity that those people have. So then you have to pick. You'll have to go, well, is fat loss my goal or is getting better at CrossFit my goal? And that's where, your rest days start to come in. But like I said, if you're getting bored, if you like to be active, good, be active. Go walk your dog. Go do all those other things and still get that deficit in for that short period of time. Now, I don't know where your macros are. I don't know really anything at this point about your situation. So I would address this in the forum, but it sounds like you've been talking to people in the forums and they were probably the people that gave you this information. So it sort of depends on, where you're coming from. If you're eating low calorie, what we need to first do is get your calories up, okay? You can CrossFit as much as you want at that point, and it's going to be favorable for you down the road because you'll have more work capacity, more muscle as a result. Muscle doesn't seem to be your issue, though. You could probably lose some fat, and it probably wouldn't be that hard for you if you were focused on fat loss. But if you were focused on, working out, that's going to allow for you. That's not going to allow for you bigger deficits. You go, well, what if I could eat at a deficit and CrossFit? Well, now you're kind of missing the point because what you're going to do is create this huge stress atmosphere in your body, and ultimately your body's going to hold on to fat as a result. And so when you look at the way that, all of us design these programs for people, not just Eat to Perform, other companies out there, Precision Nutrition, Renaissance Periodization, we're all doing kind of the same idea here when we're cutting people or trying to get people to work at a deficit, is we want them, to not have high workout days on those days. And then the days that they do have high workout days, we try to put most of their load around those days. And so that's the answer to your question on why you need more rest days. But you might not need more rest days. What I'm suggesting to you, though, is to start off doing your plan. I don't know what your plan is. I don't know what your macros are, and at this point, it's kind of too late in the game to really get into that. But I would jump in the forum and kind of walk through it. But if we're, how long have you been doing Eat to Perform? How long have you been, with us? Because that would be helpful to know. Okay, so you've been with us for 2 weeks. Okay, the first thing you gotta do is figure out, where your calories are. Do you know what you're eating right now? You've probably been tracking for at least a week or so, right? I mean, what are your macros? I mean, what are your macros that you're eating today? So you're eating 2,300 calories. Were you eating 2,300 calories 2 weeks ago? And are you saying that you're eating 2,300 calories now, or you're supposed to work up to 2,300 calories? Were you under eating previous to this? Or were you overeating? That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, is 2,300 represent a deficit for you? Because it might. I'm going to try and answer Jen's question here real quick. Okay, so let's see. Let me fit. Lori, now eating, sometimes under eating, not stable in eating. Okay. Okay, so it sounds like what we need to do is first figure out, getting your protein correct. We actually have an infographic. I don't know if I talked about this since nobody's in class anymore. We have an infographic, and it's going to run through all the steps that you need to go through before you can focus on fat loss. So for you to focus on fat loss 2 weeks into Eat to Perform, and you probably don't have a good idea on, protein, you probably don't have a good idea on carbohydrate ingestion, carbohydrate metabolism, having some level of balance. For you to be talking to me about fat loss at this point is sort of missing the boat. It's like putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. And so I would get into the forums with somebody and then kind of walk them through that scenario. I would say that if you were under eating, kind of just jumping into 2,300 calories probably doesn't make some sense. But one of the reasons that the rest days might be appropriate for you is just to get enough of a deficit so you're not putting on fat in the process. And so that's what our coaches obviously help you do. So I'm going to end on Jen's question. Been doing ETP for a month. Love the workout days, hate rest days. I'm famished all day at 5'2" and 107 pounds and 12% body fat. My goal is muscle and strength gains, not fat loss. Do I really need to still be dropping my carbs on rest days? No. Current macros are protein 110, fat 50, carbs 250 to 125. Currently have 1 rest day, 6 days of CrossFit with 4 miles running additionally. Sounds like you're under eating, to be completely honest with you. For somebody that's that body fat percentage. But no, I mean, the long story short is that for somebody that's already very lean, more carbs are going to maintain your muscle mass and obviously allow you to build. But if you have only 1 rest day, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just stay at the same macros because it's going to make virtually no difference at all. There's no advantage to you, going, you're not really controlling anything one way or the other. I would be interested to know, like, what's the whole point of all the exercise, though? Like, are you training for something, or are you training for a triathlon? I mean, I'm not anti-exercise. I'm very much for exercise, but I'm, not very into people exercising to earn food. And so that would be my only concern there. If you're exercising to train for a reason, or like you say, like for instance, if you're trying to build muscle, like you say you are, and you're trying to gain strength, having all that running is not going to be something that I would be doing in that scenario. But no, let's see. Currently have 1 rest day, 6 days of CrossFit. I mean, 6 days of CrossFit not going to get you strong either, by the way. 4 miles running additionally. I mean, CrossFit is really also a deficit program. If you're not eating an appropriate amount of food, And for what you just laid out, I mean, there's just no way you're eating an appropriate amount of food for what you're doing there, even at your size. But all that being beside the point, if you want to get stronger, you're going to have to focus on some level of weightlifting. And it looks like, your background of, let's see, maybe I'm reading into it that you were a physique competitor, but to be that low body fat percentage, you've had to work for it for a long time, which is great. That's an awesome accomplishment. But if your goal is to really get stronger and gain more muscle, you're going to have to eat more than you do, and you're going to have to work out to do those goals. The way you're working out now, sounds to me that's like somebody trying to build a deficit, from their workouts. And so you're not going to gain any muscle or gain any strength. You might gain some strength that way, but that's not a factor as it relates to what when these go long, I get kind of ditzy. Background was always only running, just started CrossFit 3 months ago. Previously was racing half marathons. Right. So I think if you're going to get serious about strength training, I would add in a day or two of strength training, where you're just doing that, which will probably drive you crazy, because you want to run. But I know ultra marathoners that run at my gym and triathletes, and every time we have this discussion with them, some of them do make the changes and they benefit from it. But it's almost counterintuitive to what they've learned over all these years, and they tend to want to kind of drive themselves into the grounds because they have these great work capacity. And what I would suggest to you, for someone who has great work capacity, that work capacity would probably translate real well on bodybuilding. One thing that I would say with bodybuilding and lifting slow, doesn't have to be like this, like pumping in front of the mirror. You can do like slow circuits, but that would be something that I would suggest for you. So we kind of covered that pretty good. If you have any other questions, you could ask it in the Science Lab Social. I'm usually busy during the week. Sometimes weekends are a little bit better to hit me up. And I'll try to answer it if I can. I just, I have to balance the business side of things. But also, that's why we have the coaches in the forum for that. And so I appreciate everybody being here. Obviously, we've been so long that April couldn't even be here. So I will check in with you guys next week, and I hope that's helpful. And if you guys have any other questions, you could, like I said, we could maybe bring them in the Science Lab Social, but in general, we try to keep those to the forums because that's why we have 20 coaches there. So appreciate everybody being here, and talk to you later.